I never thought I'd be the kind of guy to share my story on a relationship advice forum, but here I am. Maybe I just need to get this out, or maybe I'm hoping someone will tell me what to do next. Either way, I'll start from the beginning because what I found out recently isn't just shocking, it's tearing me apart. My name's Mark. I'm 35, and I've been married to Lisa for about 3 years now. We met when I was just out of college and she was working as a graphic designer. She's pretty with long dark hair, sharp eyes, and a smile that used to make my knees weak. I thought she was perfect, smart, funny, ambitious. We planned our wedding, did all the right things. I thought we had a good life ahead of us, but everything changed last week. I'd been traveling for work. The trip was supposed to be quick, just a few days. Lisa told me she'd be busy with some meetings and would be working late every night. That's what she told me anyway. I was gone for 4 days, and while I was away, she was supposed to be doing her normal routine. When I got back, I was tired, jet-lagged, just ready to collapse into our bed, but something felt off. The house was too quiet. The blinds were drawn, and I didn't hear her usual music or the sounds of her working at her desk. I knocked on the bedroom door, no answer. I pushed it open. The bed was unmade, sheets tangled messily, but that wasn't what caught my eye. On the nightstand, I saw her phone face down. I picked it up and noticed a bunch of texts that didn't make sense. I mean, I know she works on her phone a lot, but these messages, they weren't about work. They were from some guy, all flirty and casual, talking about meeting up and how much they miss each other. My stomach dropped. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I kept scrolling. There were more messages late at night, early morning, sneaky emojis, teasing conversations. I could see their names pop up. The guy's name was Jason. Never heard of him before, but that wasn't the worst part. I found a photo, too, saved in her folder. She's lying on a bed, half-dressed, with a guy I don't recognize, and the caption, "Best night ever." That's when I lost it. My hands were trembling, my ears ringing, and I couldn't breathe right. I stood there, stunned. My wife, the woman I trusted with everything, had been cheating on me during what was supposed to be our honeymoon. She lied about being away for work. She was with Jason, the guy she's been sneaking around with. I felt like I'd been buried alive for a second. The betrayal cut so deep I could taste it. The worst part, I had no idea how long this had been going on or how much she'd been lying to my face for months. I didn't want to wake her up immediately. I needed time to think, to process the betrayal. But I knew I couldn't just ignore it. The evidence was right there. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms so hard I thought they'd draw blood. I looked at her, sleeping peacefully, and felt this boiling rage I couldn't contain. I sat on the edge of the bed, the phone still in my hand. My mind raced. I had to decide whether to confront her right then or to plan my next move. I knew one thing: I wasn't going to let this go, not without consequences. The trust I once had was shattered, and I could feel something dark growing inside me. What bothered me the most wasn't just the cheating, it was the lies, the sneaking around, the fact that I had been so blind. I'd always thought we were honest, that we told each other everything. But now I wasn't so sure I knew her at all. The foundation of my marriage had crumbled in a matter of minutes, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't furious, hurt, and completely lost. I looked at the phone again. The evidence was staring me in the face. I knew I couldn't keep this to myself. I had to decide what I was going to do next, but I already knew I wouldn't let her get away with this. No matter what. I stayed up the whole night, just sitting there in the dim silence of our bedroom. The only sounds were the muffled hum of the city outside and the pounding in my head. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her lying there in that photo, her face relaxed, almost peaceful, as if she didn't have a care in the world. Meanwhile, I was burning with a mixture of betrayal, anger, and something darker I couldn't quite name yet. The worst part was the feeling of helplessness, like I'd been punched in the stomach and left to choke on my own breath. I kept asking myself, how long has this been going on? How many times had she lied to me, smiled at me like everything was fine? It was like her entire personality was a mask, hiding this secret life I had no idea about. By morning, I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. The first thing I did was clean my face, wash away the adrenaline, and try to get a grip. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I had been living in a lie the entire time. I needed facts, proof, something concrete. I had to confront her, but I wasn't sure how or when. When she finally stirred around noon, I saw her stirring in bed, stretching lazily as if nothing had happened. Her hair was tousled, her eyes still drowsy, and I felt the anger spike again. I wasn't sure I could hold back. She looked over at me and smiled sleepily. "Morning, babe, did you sleep okay?" I kept my voice calm, but my fists clenched so tight my nails dug into my palms. "Actually, no, not really." She blinked, then sat up, rubbing her eyes. "What's wrong?" "Let's talk," I said, voice low and steady. "We've got to be honest with each other about everything." Her face shifted, a flicker of confusion, then a nervous smile. "What do you mean?" I pulled out her phone from the nightstand, the one I looked at last night. I unlocked it, and I saw her eyes widen. "Who is Jason?" She froze, her smile faltered. "What are you talking about? I don't know anyone named Jason." I showed her the messages. Her hands trembled, and I could see her face blanch. "Those are from work," she mumbled, trying to cover, but the words sounded hollow. I didn't buy it. "Stop lying," I snapped. "You're cheating on me with him during our honeymoon. You lied about being away for work, didn't you?" Her eyes darted away and her voice broke. "It's not what you think. It was just a mistake. I didn't mean for you to find out like this." I felt the heat rise. The betrayal was like a hot blade twisting in my gut. "A mistake? You think that makes it okay? You've been sneaking around, hiding this from me for months. How long has this been going on? And what about the nights you said you were working late? Were you with him then?" She looked down, silent. I didn't give her a chance to answer. I knew I needed a plan, but my mind was racing. The betrayal wasn't just about the affair, it was about her lies, her deception, how deeply she'd lied to me. I told her calmly, "We're done. I need you to leave, pack your stuff and go." She hesitated, tears in her eyes. "Please, Mark, I love you. It was a mistake. I swear I'll make it right." That's when I realized I couldn't just walk away. Not without making her pay, not without making her regret this. Everything I'd built with her, everything I believed in, was shattered. I wasn't just angry, I was determined. If she thought she could lie her way out of this, she was dead wrong. Later that day, I started thinking about what kind of revenge made sense. I didn't want her to just feel a little guilty. I wanted her to truly understand the depth of what she'd lost. I wanted her to see the destruction her betrayal had caused, not just to me, but to her own life. I decided I'd make sure she'd regret this for a long, long time, but I had to be smart. No reckless accusations, no shouting matches. I needed a plan, one that would hit her where it hurt, but that I could control. And I knew exactly what I'd do. The pieces started falling into place, and I could feel the cold satisfaction building inside me. This wasn't just about ending the marriage. It was about justice, and I was ready to see it through. The next few days felt like walking through a fog, blurry and surreal. I kept replaying everything in my mind, her face when I confronted her, the coldness in her eyes, the way her voice cracked when she begged for forgiveness. But beneath all that, I was already planning my next move. I couldn't just let her walk away, not after what she'd done. No, I needed to make her feel the same betrayal she caused, but in a way she'd never see coming. I spent hours researching. I wanted to understand how to make her realize what a mistake she'd made, but I also had to be careful. I didn't want her to suspect anything until the right moment. I knew her habits, her routines, the small vulnerabilities she'd never think I'd exploit. That's why I started looking into her phone, her social media, even her email accounts. I wanted the full picture. One thing I found was her social media activity. She'd been posting pictures of herself at work, smiling, pretending everything was fine. But I knew better. I saw the subtle tags, the comments from friends and colleagues. Then I found something, a comment from Jason under one of her recent photos. Just 2 words, "Can't wait." That was all. I realized she was still lying to herself, thinking she could hide it forever. I needed tangible proof, something that would make her see how much she'd lost. I decided to plant a little seed, not directly, but enough to make her paranoid. I her messages, her photos, and started creating a fake account. I made a fake profile, one that looked like a new guy interested in her. I sent her a friend request just to see what she'd do. It took a few days, but she accepted. I watched from behind the scenes as she started to open up to this new guy, who was really me. I sent a few flirty messages, just enough to spark her curiosity. I knew she'd recognize the pattern, the way she'd let her guard down. It was a slow burn, but I could see her beginning to unravel. One night she was in the living room scrolling her phone, laughing at some meme. I sat nearby, pretending to be casual. I waited until she opened her messages again. Her eyes widened when she saw the conversation. Her fingers trembled as she read the fake guy's messages, the way he complimented her, how he talked about wanting to meet up again. Her breathing grew shallow and her face paled. "What the hell?" she whispered, clutching her phone tightly. "Who is this?" I leaned over, my voice cold. "Someone you don't want to mess with. You see, I've been watching, I've been waiting. All those lies, all those sneaky messages, you thought you could hide it forever, huh?" She looked at me, her eyes glistening with tears. "You're messing with me." "No," I said, voice steady. "I'm showing you what happens when you betray someone who loves you. You thought I wouldn't find out, but I did. And now I'm going to make sure you regret every second of it." Her hands shook as she dropped her phone onto the table. She looked like she'd been hit by a truck. That's when I knew I had her exactly where I wanted. She was starting to realize she'd gone too far and I was just getting started. But I didn't want her to see the full extent of my plan just yet. I wanted her to feel the fear, the paranoia, the helplessness. That's why I kept the fake conversation alive, kept her convinced that I'd uncovered everything. I knew she'd be wondering who was behind all this, questioning her every move. That's what I needed, the doubt, the confusion. The next step was clear. I'd make her believe I was watching her, that I'd uncovered all her secrets. That's when she'd realize that she'd lost control. And when that moment came, I'd be ready to strike back in the most calculated way. She thought she'd betrayed me. I was about to show her what betrayal really looked like, coming straight from her own reflection. I sat back, feeling the satisfaction bubble up. This game was just beginning, but I already knew I'd win. I could taste the anticipation. She'd never see it coming. The days that followed were like walking through a minefield, each step more deliberate than the last. I kept the fake account active, sending her little messages that made her doubt everything she thought she knew. The paranoia was starting to eat her alive. I could see it in her eyes. She was constantly looking over her shoulder, checking her phone, trying to figure out who was behind it all. Good. That's exactly how I wanted her to feel. While she was busy spiraling, I set my plan into motion. I knew I needed a way to push her over the edge without giving myself away. I wanted her to feel exposed, vulnerable, and desperate, not knowing who was orchestrating her downfall. I spent hours crafting the perfect scenario, planting the seeds of suspicion just enough to make her doubt everyone around her. One evening, she came home late from work, looking tense. Her face was pale, her eyes darted around nervously as she entered the house. She kept her phone close, almost clutching it like a lifeline. I was waiting in the living room, pretending to be engrossed in my laptop, but I was fully alert and ready. She approached me and cleared her throat. "Hey, I think I should tell you something." I looked up, feigning calm. "What's going on?" She hesitated, biting her lip. "It's about this guy I've been talking to. His name's Mark, not you. He's been messaging me, and I didn't know how to say it without making things worse." My pulse quickened, but I kept my face impassive. "Go on." She looked like she was about to cry. "He's saying he's in love with me, that he's always wanted to be with me, and that he's tired of hiding it." I slowly closed my laptop, then leaned back. "And you're telling me this now?" Her voice cracked. "I didn't want to hurt you, I swear I didn't." I rubbed my temples, trying to stay in control. "Did you tell him about us, about your marriage?" She shook her head. "No, I didn't. I was just confused. I didn't want to hurt you, but I can't keep pretending. I think I might. I think I might want to see where this goes." She looked genuinely upset, but I could see her desperation. She was clutching at straws, trying to keep her story afloat. I looked her in the eyes, feeling a strange mix of satisfaction and contempt. "You're playing with fire, Lisa. You think you can betray me and get away with it." Her voice quivered. "I don't know what I want anymore. Please, just give me a chance to explain." I stood up slowly, feeling the cold weight of her betrayal settle deep inside me. "You don't get a second chance. Not after this. I want you out tonight." Her face crumpled. "Please, Mark, don't do this. I'm sorry. Sorry didn't cut it anymore. I'd spent years building a life with her, only to find out it was just a—" I felt the anger boiling again, but I kept my voice steady. Pack your things. Don't make me ask twice." She looked like she was about to break apart. I watched her grab a bag and start throwing her clothes in, not even bothering to fight me on it. Every second she was there, I felt like I was walking on glass. Her lies had become a poison I couldn't shake, and now I was finally getting rid of the source. Once she left, I sat in the empty house, replaying everything. It was like waking up from a nightmare. I realized how much I'd trusted her, how blind I'd been. The betrayal wasn't just about the affair, it was about the complete breakdown of everything I thought was real. But I wasn't done. I had one more move to make, and it was going to leave her with a taste of her own medicine. She thought she'd gotten away with everything, but I planned to make her regret ever crossing me. I was going to show her that betrayal comes with consequences, and I'd make sure she never forgets. I needed to prepare for her inevitable return. I had my plan, and I was ready to execute it. The ball was in motion now, and she wouldn't escape unscathed. Not this time. I could feel it, the cold thrill of revenge, and this time I wasn't holding back. The house was eerily quiet after Lisa left. I sat there, staring at the empty space where she'd been just moments before. My mind was racing, trying to piece together what I'd just done and what was coming next. I knew she'd probably try to contact me, maybe even come back, begging for forgiveness. But I wasn't interested in her apologies or her tears. Not anymore. I took some time to set everything in motion for the final act. I wanted her to realize just how much she'd lost, not just me, but her sense of security, her peace of mind. I decided to leave a little breadcrumb trail, something that would make her question everything about herself and her choices. First, I went through her email and social media accounts one last time. I needed something concrete. I found an account she'd forgotten she even had, a secret email she used to coordinate with Jason, and apparently this new guy she'd been talking to. I downloaded all the conversations, saved the photos, and made a copy of everything. Then I set up a fake email account, one that looked like a new admirer from her past. I sent her a message, under the guise of a new admirer, telling her I knew everything about Jason, her secret account, the affair, the lies. I told her I'd been watching her for weeks and that I knew she'd betrayed her marriage. I also made sure to include some of her own words, phrases she'd used in her messages, so she'd see that I'd been paying attention to every detail. I wanted her to feel exposed, vulnerable. When she saw the message, I knew she'd panic, start questioning her own sanity. Later that night, I sat quietly in the dark, waiting for her inevitable reaction. Sure enough, around midnight her phone chimed. I watched her from a distance as she looked at the screen, her face draining of color. She read my message, trembling, her hands shaking as she scrolled through. When she finally looked up at me, her eyes were wide with fear and disbelief. Who's doing this?" she whispered. I crossed my arms and approached her slowly. "That's just the beginning, Lisa. You thought you could lie to me, betray me, and get away with it, but I've been watching, I've been planning, and now I want you to understand what betrayal really looks like." Her voice cracked. "Please, I didn't mean for it to get this far. I was weak, I loved you." I shook my head, feeling the cold rage welling up. "Love? You call this love? Cheating, lying, sneaking behind my back. If I'd known you were capable of this, I would ended this long ago." She looked like she was about to cry. "Just give me another chance. I swear I'll fix everything." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of months of pain and anger. "No, there's no fixing this. You made your choice, Lisa, and I'm done pretending like it didn't happen." I handed her a small envelope I'd prepared earlier. Inside was the keys to the house, her jewelry, and a copy of the divorce papers. "Sign these. Today, we're done, and I want you to leave permanently." Her hands trembled as she took the papers, tears streaming down her face. "You're really doing this?" "Yes," I said, voice cold and firm, "because I deserve better than a liar who cheats on her husband during our honeymoon." She looked at me with a mixture of shame and heartbreak. I knew she would regret this forever, but I also knew I couldn't stay in a relationship built on lies. I was finally free of the betrayal, free of the lies, free of her. As she signed the papers, I felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. I'd taken back my life, but I knew the scars of this betrayal would stay with me for a long time. Still, I walk away knowing I'd done what I had to do. And so I handed her the keys, watched her leave, and closed the door behind her. That night I finally felt the weight lift from my shoulders. The trust was gone, but now I could focus on rebuilding myself. Sometimes betrayal is a wake-up call, a brutal one, but still a wake-up call. My takeaway: never ignore the signs and never let anyone take away your peace without a fight. In the days that followed, everything started to settle into a new rhythm, albeit a quieter, lonelier one. I spent a lot of time alone, reflecting on what had happened, trying to piece myself back together from the wreckage of trust and hope I once had. The house was eerily silent without her, no more hurried footsteps or whispered secrets. I felt the weight of betrayal still pressing down, but oddly, there was also a strange sense of relief. I knew I'd made the right decision. Walking away from her was the hardest thing I'd ever done, but it was also the trust. Something I once took for granted was now a fragile thing I'd never see the same way again. Still, I refused to let her betrayal define me. I started focusing on myself, reevaluating what I wanted from life after this. The pain would fade, I told myself, and I'd come out stronger. One morning, I grabbed the divorce papers I'd signed the night before. I put them in an envelope, sealed it tight, and took a deep breath. It was time to finalize everything officially. I knew that with each step I was closing a chapter I never wanted to open in the first place. I drove to the courthouse, my hands on the wheel, feeling slightly numb. The administrative clerk took the papers, looked over them, and nodded. "Everything seems in order. You're all set for the final hearing next week." I nodded back, voice steady despite the storm inside me. "Thank you." Walking out of the courthouse, I felt a strange mix of liberation and emptiness. I'd cut ties with her, with the lies, with the betrayal, but I couldn't deny the ache of what I'd lost. Still, I knew this was necessary. The trust I'd once had was gone, and I refused to let it define my future. Back home, I cleared out her belongings, packed them into a box, and handed her the keys. I left her a brief note: "It's over. I hope you find what you're looking for. I'll be moving on." When I closed the door behind her, a strange calm settled over me. No more lies, no more secrets, just me rebuilding from the ruins. Looking back, I realized that betrayal reveals the true character of a person. It exposes weaknesses but also pushes you to find strength you never knew you had. I learned that trust is a fragile thing. Once broken, it's hard to mend. The pain cuts deep, but it also teaches you who you are and what you deserve. My advice: don't ignore the signs. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them. And if they betray you, don't hesitate to cut the cord and walk away. If you keep holding on to a toxic relationship, all you're doing is delaying the inevitable. Protect yourself. Respect yourself. That's the real lesson I take from all this. I won't forget what happened, but I won't let it define me either. I'm choosing to move forward stronger, wiser, and more cautious. Because in the end, the only person who truly cares about your happiness and integrity is you. And I refuse to let anyone take that away from me again.